Okay, thank you very much. So I see we have some politicians who like to take liberties with my calendar and my clock. I'm going to have to get louder and tougher, but I'm standing now, so I'm a little scarier now, right? That might actually work. Okay, so what we're going to do now for this portion of the event is we're going to take questions from the audience. So if you've got a question, raise your hand, and somebody will come around and give you a mic, and they will tell me who's going to ask the question because they're the boss and I'm not. So I think we're over here first. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gail Howell. I asked to be the first speaker here tonight, and I'd like to ask the moderator to have some patience with me because I have a lot to say. I'd like to congratulate all three of you guys for showing up here this evening. Good on you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. First thing I'd like to start with, I have human rights issues to raise on behalf of all of us here this evening. In recent months, I've written the provincial government regarding the lack of dental services for people who are seniors and disability and who have heart conditions and can't get access to proper dental care, which makes me more susceptible to infections and more inability to get antibiotics and stuff like that. Also, with regard to the home telephone services, I think people with disabilities and seniors are being financially gouged, especially any one of us who uses emergency alert or lifeline or mental health consumers. We need to have a look at that and see if we can lower prices for phone services. I also have access to a cell phone.
I got to tell you though, this is not anything, but I wear hearing aids and I find the acoustics in here bad. I wonder is it possible that we could just see and read the question and then I can come back up here and answer afterwards, but I need to be able to.
Yes, but
all right. Okay.
But with regard to these human rights issues, I mean, there's issues with regard to accessible housing for us. Home care is not accessible to us. Some of us are left in our own filth at night because we don't have access to people to care for us properly in our own houses. Animals are better cared for than we are. Also, with regard to not only the housing and home care and the food care and all of these issues are human rights issues, and I'd like to know how each party plans to address them. It doesn't matter which political stripe it's in. Somebody has to address these issues. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think what we're going to do is go in with a different starting order than last time. Last time Pauline went third, so he's going to go first, followed by Clyde Jackman, if you want to respond, followed by Earl McCurdy.
Okay, thank you for the question. And first of all, just let me say that there's obviously a number of issues that you've raised, and they're all very important issues, and they're all very serious issues. I think a lot of the issues you raised, though, all tie into the ability of a person to live independently in their own home and to have the supports that are required for the person to do so. And I think that that's certainly something that we all should be aiming for, to be able to keep people in their home homes with supports. You talked about accessible housing, and I totally agree. First of all, we have a housing shortage here throughout the province, particularly here in the northeast Avalon. I know it's a big issue. It's an issue that my colleague Tom Osborne has raised in the House numerous times. Accessible housing is definitely an issue as well, and I was actually very glad when we had our counterpart from the Adam Vaughan from the Federal Liberal Party was down, and I met with him and met with a number of groups. and there's a commitment there by the new federal Liberal government to actually put more money into affordable housing, and that money will go to the provinces to be able to put into affordable housing. So, with this commitment and a new government, a new Liberal government that we are obviously would be able to work with and have a good relationship with, we want to make that happen sooner rather than later. You also talk about issues around, home care, foot care, all those things. These are all services, again, that need to be improved upon. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that none of these services exist, because there are people that do avail of some of these services, but we also know that there are a number of gaps and there are a number of services that need to be improved upon. So I would simply say that, I hear what you're saying on those issues, and we're certainly committed to work with the community to improve these types of services for persons with disabilities.
Great, thank you. Next is Clyde Jackman.
Yeah, thank you very much. The difficult situations that people find themselves in terms of home care, because just as people in the disability community want to and deserve home care, there are likewise seniors that are facing the same type of issues right now. And, there is a program in place. Can it be better? Yeah, I guess it can. And I suppose jointly working with your community, we need to see how we can improve that. I think there's one particular area that we need to do more work in. There's been advances made for sure, but that's through Newfoundland and Labrador housing. And right now, Newfoundland and Labrador housing has 83, I believe this is, or 85, that are fully accessible units. They have something like 550 or so that are livable. And I guess all of you know what livable means: the entry, the bathroom, the wider doorways that are in place. As Newfoundland and Labrador housing, we find now that the retro that they need, we need to downsize them from what was once 3 and 4 bedroom apartments to 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. And as we do more of that retro, we need to make sure that they're meeting that universal design that we talked about previously. The second initiative is an initiative that we cost share jointly with the federal government, and that's around affordable housing. And that when proponents, and this being the public sector to the large part, and some private, some not-for-profit groups, when they avail of those dollars, there has to be a number of those units that are accessible. Now, right now, I will say that the majority of these units are being occupied by seniors. But I think a focus that we certainly do need to look at and concentrate more on is making these units, more of them, available to people who need accessibility like yours.
Thank you. And now Earl McCurdy.
Yes, thank you for the question, Gail. That certainly touched on a lot of points. I think on these things, what we have to do is try and have as comprehensive an approach to these issues as we possibly can in government. So, for example, in home care, we need to plan ahead. We need to say what needs to be done with the home care sector to have it meet the needs. And one of the things that needs to be done, I believe, it has to be professionalized in terms of providing training. It has to offer wages that attract young people, because the people currently in the industry are, before long will have retired, or a great many of them. In the issue of housing, and accessible and affordable housing, I think that has to be tied into, I think these are often issues that overlap between federal, provincial, and municipal responsibility. And so if a housing development is going up, we should be really looking at having some percentage of the units in a new housing development be affordable housing, accessible housing, and try and integrate that, have an integrated community, rather than say, well, we'll have some, section over here that's that's accessible as a, off by itself. And I think if we build that into municipal planning, and then the two levels of government, senior levels of government, provide the the financial supports, I believe that's the way to tackle some of these problems, because I think the question that you pose speaks to the points I made in my very first comments about dignity, independence, self-determination, and personal choice. And I think those issues go right to the heart of those values.
Great, thank you.